that, with the invention of further technology, we start talking about borehole. Get our water from borehole. Then the water from the borehole, we get it down to our building where we use it. That is talking about the source. And these are several numbers of sources. The rainwater is still part of the sources that we have. And from this source, we use piping network to take the water from the source to a point where the water will be used either for industrial purposes or for domestic purposes. And when the water gets to where it is going to be used, if the water is actually coming from the well, you have a pump that takes the water from the well and send it to your storage facility. Majority of us are familiar with the fact that there are two mediums of storing water within the facility. You can either store your water using an overhead tank, or you store your water using a surface tank, or you use an underground tank. The two of them has advantage and disadvantage. When you store your water inside your overhead tank, this indicates that you are actually supplying water to be used within the plumbing network via gravity. One of the advantages of this is that you only need power to get the water from the source into the storage tank. As soon as the storage tank is filled up, you could cut off your power supply, and even with no power supply, you still have a constant supply of water within the facility. That is distribution by gravity. Then the other one is that you either have your storage on the surface or underground. And with this, you have to move the water to every floor within the building via electromechanical devices, which is the combination of your electrical pumps and a pressure booster. And the only disadvantage of the gravity means of distribution is that there is always what we call pressure differential. That is, if you stay in a two-story building, you have observed it that if you are staying on the ground floor, you get more supply of water and pressure compared to people who are staying on the first floor. And when the building is actually going to run out of water, the first set of people that will be impacted are people staying on the first floor. Even if it is just only one single drop of water that is remaining inside that storage tank, the ground floor will still receive supply of water. And when you start pumping water into the overhead tank, the first set of people to receive water is the people who are staying on the ground floor. And until when the ground floor becomes saturated, the first floor will not get water supply. That is the only disadvantage of gravity distribution. It is always prone to pressure differential. But when you do electromechanical distribution, in which you have your storage on the surface, with this, you gain unequal pressure throughout the entire plumbing network. But the only disadvantage of it is that when there is no power, there is no water distribution within the whole entire facility. So it all depends on facility-wise. The two of them can be used, but necessity at times or power availability might determine which one you are going to actually use out of the two. Now, I've said something about the storage tank. Many of us must have noticed it that in our house, the storage tank we have behind our house has a pipe that takes water into that tank. And there is another pipe that rises right beside the tank, and it doesn't have any cover on it. The purpose of that pipe is to create a complete airflow within the system. If that pipe is not there, you could have water inside the overhead tank, and the water will not get inside the building. And that pipe is basically designed to prevent what is referred to as airlock in plumbing systems. Now, the supply that is coming to your building, this is the pictorial view of the set of sources of water during the primitive age. And before we start talking about digging of boreholes as well. And this is the device that you use to take water from any sources of water that you want to take, most especially your well water. And you have two types of pump. There is surface pump and there is submersible pump. Your surface pump is designed to be operated on the surface alone, not to be immersed in water. But your submersible pump is designed to be immersed in water, not to run on surface. So now I said, from your storage tank, this water is being distributed via pipe. And piping network from the primitive age, we started with galvanized. And as technology started advancing, we discovered that galvanized is no longer tenable because of the fact that the rigor which you have to go through in dialing that galvanized pipe, in tightening it, and all this stuff, technology helps us to eliminate galvanized. And because of the fact that there is water passing through this galvanized, and without water and oxygen being mixed together, the galvanized started generating what we call rust. And this rust has a chemical called iron. And iron has a certain percentage that can be consumed in water. And that's why galvanized is being eliminated. And because of the fact that in the building environment is also prone to leakages, most especially when you are actually trying to supply with via pressure, is prone to a lot of leakages, and you have to start breaking walls to rectify the leakages and all this stuff. After the normal galvanized wall, we start talking about UPVC. UPVC helps us to reduce the stress through which we actually always went through when we're dealing with galvanized piping network. And after UPVC, we start talking about anchor pipe, we start talking about pressure pipe. These are pipes that can retain higher pressure more than normal UPVC. And from there, we start talking about PPR pipe. And from PPR pipe, today we have HDPE, which is one of the latest version of piping networks and fittings in currently in circulation as far as the field of plumbing network is concerned. The means of installation of PPR and HDPE are almost the same thing. It's just only that your HDP, you can have them in bigger sizes like 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches, 8 inches, 10 inches sizes. You can use them for both the normal water distribution network, and you can as well use them for wastewater distribution collection network as well, because they have higher diameter capacity compared to your normal PPR pipe. And from the storage tank, there is a mains, it's referred to as mains, that take the water during the distribution within the entire building, that takes the water from the storage tank and brings it into the building. And this is referred to as the main supply pipe. And this pipe always has a control. That control is referred to as valve. It could be an air valve, it could be a gauge valve, it could be a globe valve, it could be a butterfly valve. Each and every one of them has their role and the reason why they are being used. And how many of us agree, or let me put the question this way, what is a valve? Who should I call? Yeah, Mr. Ugochi. Okay, somebody wants to. Oh, excellent. Somebody just put up his hand. Mr. Adebola Abiodun, go ahead. What is a valve?
Good evening, sir. Good evening,
Good
class.
evening, Mr. Abiodun.
A valve is a device used in regulating the free flow of water.
Used in what? Hello, Mr. Abiodun.
Regulating the flow of water. Hello, sir.
Regulating the flow of water. Okay, okay, okay.
I
You're
said
right.
a valve is a device used in regulating the flow of water.
You're right. You're right. So a valve is a device that is being used to control the flow of liquid, fluid, or gas. Your water is a liquid. You use a valve to control the flow of liquid, fluid, or gas. So even if you're working in a gas environment, a valve still remains like a valve. So there is always a main control valve. The function of the main control valve is to shut down the entire water flow within that building. And that's why it is referred to as the main control valve. And as soon as this network of piping gets into the building, one part goes to the kitchen area, one part goes to the toilet, one part goes to the bedroom. And this pipe that goes to each of these areas are referred to as branches. They are called branches. And these branches are also protected with a control valve. The reason being that if there is any plumbing challenge in the kitchen area, I have no reason to shut down the whole entire water supply into that building. I only go to the branch control valve and shut off the control valve that control the kitchen area. And even coming down to the kitchen area, you could have your dishwash area, you could have your hand wash area within the kitchen area. Each of them still have what is referred to as a conduit control valve that most people refer to as a T-tap. You call it a conduit control valve. These conduit control valves are being installed to ensure that if you want to do any work on your dishwash bowl zinc, you don't have to shut down the main control, the branch control valve that comes into the kitchen area. You only lock the conduit valve or the T-taps that control the water supply to the sink. And if it is the hand wash basin, that that conduit valve is exactly what you are actually going to shut down to control water within that area. And these are the ways through which the water is being distributed within that facility. And this is the pictorial view of the overhead storage of water within your facility. And this shows that you are actually distributing water into the entire facility via gravity. This is the electromechanical means of supplying water into the building via electrical and mechanical means. You have a pump and you have a pressure switch mounted on it that gives it pressure, and you send the water to the entire building. And like I said earlier on, when you are using this electromechanical, you have equal distribution of pressure within the whole entire facility. Even if it is 10-story building, the pressure is equal all through. You don't have pressure differential at all. So valves and control. Once you have done your complete piping network, then the next thing is you start putting in your fittings. And what is the function of valve? Like I said earlier on, you use your valve to regulate the flow, to control the flow of liquid, fluid, and gas. Control of water system, use it to start or shut down a fluid, a gas, or a liquid. You can also use it to regulate the pressure. You can use it to as what? As a backflow control measure. Then you can also use it to control the direction of liquid, fluid, and gas. And what are the type of valve that we have? We have a gauge valve. A gauge valve is an example of a valve that it completely opens and completely closes when you want to use it in controlling of water. It's open completely and it closes completely. It can come either in galvanized, it can come in copper, and it can come in PVC. It all depends on which one you want to use. And aside that, you have a globe valve. A globe valve doesn't open completely and it doesn't close completely. It closes gradually. It helps you to control the flow of water with a movable spindle. And it can use it to what? Reduce. Because it doesn't close it at once. It closes gradually. And by doing this, it exerts in pressure into the incoming water. And by the time the water is coming out, because the diameter, the inlet diameter is higher than the outlet diameter because of the fact that you have already closes the valve to a what? A starting stage. So you gain in more of what? Pressure. And the three types of globe valve are the plug type, which is disc valve, the conventional disc valve, and the composition disc valve. Then we have a check valve. A check valve is a kind of a valve that only has a one-way opening system. It's open for the flow of liquid. It doesn't allow anything to flow back again. And that's why most people refer to it as they refer to it as non-return valve. That is a valve that doesn't allow it only allow passage of fluid, liquid, and gas only in one way direction. It doesn't allow it to flow back in the other direction as well. And the types of them are swing check valve, lift check valve, vertical check valve, and horizontal check valve. So you can have them in vertical, you can have them in horizontal. Then if you are using a well within your facility and you have your surface pump mounted to the well, and there is a pipe that takes the water from the well into the building. At the base of that pipe, there is something that is being attached to the base. You call it a foot valve. You refer to it as a foot valve because it's staying at the foot or the base or the bottom of the well. And this foot valve does two functions, performs two functions. The first function is that it serves as a sieve that disallows jets and particles to have access to the impeller of your pumping machine. Then the second function is that it also serves as a non-return valve. So there is always water retaining inside the riser pipe that comes from the well into the pump. If this foot valve is having an issue, most especially if the spring is getting weaker, instead for it to be retaining water, as time goes on, if you don't pump water for like a day or 2 days, the whole entire water inside that riser pipe must have drained out because the spring of that non-return valve is already getting weak. So the water that's supposed to be retained inside the riser pipe is already going out. And that's why most of the time you need to like prime your pumping machine. You start the pump is working, but it's not bringing out water. What do? That means the entire water inside the riser pipe has already completely been drained out. So the only thing you need in that aspect is that you open the existing valve that had already been created on the discharge side of the pumping machine. You start putting water until when that thing is completely filled up. Then you lock the valve and put on the pumping machine. By so doing, the pump already has enough water inside its volumes. So once you put the pumping machine on, the impeller pick it up and it started dragging the water out from the what? From the well. And you started seeing water going into your what? Storage tank. Then angle valve. The angle valve is nothing less than the concrete valve, the conduit valve that I explained to us the other time. You call it angle valve because it makes an angle of 90 degrees. The inlet and the outlet, the suction and the side of that valve is making an angle of 90. And that's why most people refer to it as angle valve. It's the same thing as T-tap and the same thing as conduit valve. It's the same piece of equipment that is referred to with that three names. So the foot valve, I've explained it, which is what you commonly see in your well. Then the safety valve. If you've been to hotels, there are some hotels that you go to their bedroom, you don't come to see a water heater hanging on the wall. No. But yet that room still have hot water. That means definitely what they are using is centralized hot water system with the aid of a boiler. They have a boiler that boils the water, and the boiler sends they now distribute the hot water into the every part of what of the hotel or the building via the hot water piping network. And don't forget, in a building, you are having, if you are going to have a hot water, you're going to have two separate network piping network. One is going to be dedicated for cold water alone, while the other one will be dedicated for hot water alone. Thank God for the era of PPR. You can use your PPR pipe for both cold water and hot water. But initially, during the era of UPVC, you have to use the UPVC for cold water only and use copper pipe or anchor pipe for hot water lines. But with the aid of PPR and HDP now, you can use both for both cold line and hot line. Then I'm saying something about the boiler. The boiler has a devices because once the water gets to 100 degrees centigrade, while the water is boiling inside the boiler, it generates steam. And you can't send this water, hot water, alongside with steam into every rooms within the hotel facility. So now the designer of the boiler have realized that at times, once the water gets to 100 degrees centigrade, it is expected that the control solenoid valve automatically energizes. It opens a channel where all the steam that have already been accumulated during the boiling period in the boiler, where the steam will what discharge and goes out. But because the people that designed the boiler has it at the back of their mind that there is possibility that that solenoid valve will fail, and that's why they install a safety relief valve on the um, on the boiler. So once the solenoid valve fail to operate, then you make use of the safety relief valve to discharge all the steam inside the boiler out. It has a spindle. You drag the spindle, you lift it up. It has an internal spring. Once you lift it up, there is a seal that opens. Once that seal is open, the steam inside that boiler goes out from the what? From the discharge point. You depress it again, you press, you depress, you press, you depress, and you keep doing it gradually until when the whole steam inside that boiler goes out. That is what they use the safety relay valve for. Then these are type of fittings that you come across in your facility as well. You have the compression cork, you have the key cork, you have the ball faucet, and you have the hose bit. Each and every one of them has a reason and a purpose to which they are being used. The key cork and the ball faucet are almost the same thing, but the only difference between them is that the key cork can rotate at an angle of 90. You can turn it to the right at an angle of 90 and turn it to the left at an angle of 90. And when you bring it to the center, you lock it up. But the ball faucet, you can only lift it up to open passage of water and turn it down to close it again. You can't turn it left or right. The compression cork are type of tap that you use if you are been to your facility and you have tap on your fence wall. These are the type of tap that you have. These are the type of tap that doesn't close this at once. You have to turn clockwise until when it's finally what closed. And when you want to fetch water, you have to like open it anti-clockwise. Then the key cork. These are very, very common in an hotel environment or in the food environment or anything related to food, because every workers in the production floor are expected, while coming to the production floor, they have to wash and sanitize their hands. And if you are using the compression cork, you are trying to avoid bacteria in washing your hands. You will still use the same hand to close the tap back again. And that's why in an hotel environment, most especially in the kitchen area, in food production environment, in people are dealing with nectar who are producing juice, like all these Chivita, all these Five Alive. You can't see any tap within their kitchen area except sensor operated tap or this type of key cock. And the advantage of the key cock is that you don't need to use your hand to open that tap. You use your elbow to lift the key cock, or you use your elbow to open it and use the same elbow to close it without you using your hand to have a contact with the tap. So this keeps your hand away from what? Bacterial infection. Then the hose bead. The difference between the hose bead and the compression cup is that the hose bead always have a threaded part at the mouth, while the compression cord doesn't have a threaded point. The advantage of the threaded point is that it gives you room to put your hose. You can easily clip your hose onto it and your hose will stay. But with the compression cord, if you are going to use your hose in watering your garden, you have to use a clip in order to hold that hose in place. Otherwise, it will keep falling off. So we said something about the riser pipe, we said something about the branch and the future supply. This is also the example of gravity supply. You can see from this pictorial view, these are valve. This is the main control. These are branches. These are branches. These are branches. These are branches. And you can see that each of the branch has a control valve. So if there is any breakdown on any of this line, I don't need to shut down the main control valve. I can only lock up the angle at which I have the challenge and get all my breakdown rectified without impacting on other areas. Okay, there are one or two things that I needed to tell us here. Now, after we have distributed the water within the building, we actually use this water either to wash our dishes, to wash the floor, for washing of dress, for taking our bath, then for sanitary purposes as well. With this usage, we generate what is referred to as waste. And that's why we're going to talk about the waste pipe, the vent pipe, the trap, the stack, and the branches. We all know what a branch is now. A branch in the water distribution network is the same branch in the wastewater distribution networking as well. Then your wastewater pipe starts from your washing hand basin, has a magic waste. We call it a magic waste. It's just like a flexible connector that connected your hand wash basin or your dish wash basin to the what? To the waste water line on the wall. Initially, during the primitive age, what we use is referred to as bottle trap. And it's not that you can't use the bottle trap this time around, but because that during jet, if you miss that angle of 90 degree between your washing hand basin or your dishwash basin and the waste pipe, if you miss that angle of 90 by just only 1 degree, there's going to be leakage. And these are all what the flexible connector or magic waste help us to eliminate. Even when you miss your direction by 2 degree, 5 degree, you can still twist your magic waste. It will still convey the wastewater into the wastewater line on the wall. But one of the advantages of the bottle trap is that it has a cup that is like a threaded cup. You can easily remove it, open it, clean whatever remnants inside it, and fix it back, and you have your water flowing again. So you have the waste pipe, which I've already mentioned. That is what collected the wastewater from the bathroom, the wastewater from the kitchen, the wastewater from the toilet, the wastewater from your floor drain, and direct it into the main waste water pipe and then to the what? To the sewage system. Then the trap, I've mentioned about it. The trap is more or less like a U shape. And one of the advantage of it is that it prevents backflow of odor. And
No,
that's
you're
why you
stepping on
see,
me. What do you on my dress? Please. If you do it again, I might fall.
and that's the reason why you see that your WC has something like a U shape at the bottom. The advantage of this is it prevents backflow of odor. Then the stack, if you look at your bedroom or your toilet when you get back home, there is one 4 inches pipe that rises from a small chamber at the back of either bedroom or toilet. It rises out and it has a small cap like a vent on top of it. That is referred to as stack. This is actually meant for if you are living in a bungalow, but if you are living in a two-story building, you have this stack. It will rise from that ground floor up to the almost to the roof of the first floor. And it's one of the advantage of it is that one, it eliminates odor from your sewage system, and it also helps the sewage system to eliminate pressures as well. That is the advantage of it. And if you have like 10-story building, 6-story building, you will have a main stack which will rises from the first floor up to the what? To the last floor. But it will have an attachment. The attachment that is going to have are referred to as Y because it will form a letter Y. And every floor will serve as a branch. They will all serve as a branch and join this main stack. And that's why you have it as stack and or you have it as what? Main stack. Now, what it is actually saying is that when you have your sewage system located, most especially on the mainland, because on the mainland, the ground, the soil on the mainland is not completely saturated compared to island where every soil on the island is fully and completely saturated. But for island, you always have a precast sewage system. You precast it and you install it. But on the mainland, what you have is a sewage system with a soak-away opportunity. And when you have a soak-away system, in plumbing, what this plumbing code is actually saying is that when you have a sewage system that has a soak-away as well, you must ensure that you have nothing less than 0.6 meter between the sewage system and the building foundation and even the building fence as well. Because as time goes on, percolation will keep taking its course. And it will come to a point that the soil around that sewage system will become saturated. And because of the fact that the interior part of those sewage systems are not cemented, they are being constructed with perforated cement block so that the water that goes in can easily percolate. It will come to a point that the entire area, the soil within that area will become saturated, and the soil might fall off. If the soil fall off, it can affect your foundation, and if this affects your foundational structure, you could be having what we call a structural differential within your facility. And that's why you must ensure that this is at least 0.6 meter away from your fence wall. Then, this is very common when you are doing, in plumbing, there is something we call a manhole, or possibly when you want to have a branch. What this is actually telling you is that when you are moving from a plumbing networking or plumbing layout, and you are
I
moving
hope
from horizontal, you are running your plumbing pipes from horizontal to an horizontal. And when you are doing this, when you are changing from one horizontal to another horizontal, or you're moving from to form an L shape, at that angle, you must use a 45-degree wide. What it is saying is that an angle on a straight line is 180 degrees. And with 45 degree out of 180 degree, it means that the remaining angle is 135 degree. The advantage of maintaining that 135 degree is that once there is a blockage in the nearest future, your blockage cleaning rod or K rod that mostly people call it can easily move around a 135 degree rather than 45 degree or rather than 90 degree. Then when you are moving from vertical piping networking to horizontal piping networking, you must also use a 45-degree wide. With this, you gain an angle of 135 degrees. The same thing is applicable to your manhole, so that whenever there is a blockage, it is easier for you to use your K-rod to manipulate and move around those piping network and maintain a proper cleaning methodology. Now, when you are running your sewage, your wastewater piping networking, it is necessary, it is very, very important that at least you must maintain a minimum slope or pitch of horizontal drainage, at least minimum 2% at every 1/4 feet distance. You must ensure that your wastewater line inclines at an angle. It must form a slope as if it's declining, so that when a single drop of wastewater fell inside, it goes directly to your sewage system. And if during the time that the project is being done and all the piping network are being done to maintain an angle of 180 degrees, which is angle on a straight line, there will always be water retention in the drainage line. One, if this happens to be your kitchen environment, there is going to be constant accumulation of fat, and this fat, as time goes on, will form cake, and this cake will block your what wastewater line. Then you will have non-flowing of your wastewater. Then you have to look for a plumber to help you do what we refer to as removal of those fat from the drainage system. Then your urinary, the waste of your urinary, the waistline must maintain an inclined angle. It must slant. It must not maintain a straight line. If it maintains a straight line, when people urinate, there will be retention of urine inside that wastewater line. And because urine contains ammonia and it ferments at a faster rate, there's no amount of air freshener you spray, no amount of camphor you put there, no amount of all this air freshener you use, there will still be, that urinary will still be smelling. So as soon as people approach that urinary, the first thing that approaches or greeted them is that foul smell that is coming from that urinary. You must maintain an angle. This is the pictorial view of that bottle trap that I mentioned when we were discussing about trap the other time. So you have several times. You have the pit trap, you have the deep seal pit trap, and this is the stand trap. This is the one that is very commonly with WC at home. Now, this is the main stack here. This is the main one that is being connected into the sewage system. These are all branches. This is a branch, and this is also a branch. This take care of this WC, and this one take care of this WC. All the odor from these two WC goes through this main branch, and this branch is connected to what? To the main stack. And don't forget, this is the example of 45-degree wide that we're talking about. So it is easier for you to maintain 135 here. And this angle is what? Is 45. Now, clean out required and when they are not required. In your drainage system, in your wastewater line, When you are running your wastewater line, at every 15-meter interval, you must ensure that you created a manhole at every 15-meter interval. You must create a manhole. And when you are creating that manhole, don't forget to maintain an offset angle of 135 degrees. Because with that, when there is blockage in the nearest future, it is easier for you to clear this blockage. Your K rod can easily move at an angle of 135 compared to an angle of 45 degrees. You must ensure, but you don't need a clean out when the distance is less than 15 meters. So your clean out is not required in less than what, 1.5 meter length, unless such line is serving a sink or urinal. So if that point, if you have a urinary around that area, you need a clean out. And that's why you see that most especially immediately after the back of our toilet and our WC, there is always a manhole immediately, because you must maintain a manhole with less than 1.5 if it is serving a sink and it's serving a urinary. And that's why at the back of your kitchen, you have a manhole as well. These are all vents that I've already told us about. You can see this is the main vent here. This is the hand wash basin, and this is the bottle trap. Then that conveys the waste from the hand wash to the what? To the wastewater line. And the wastewater line has a vent pipe. The vent pipe takes the odor away and send it down into the what? To drainage system. When the water is coming, the water gets to the place, the water cannot go up because the water is coming with gravity. The water follow the downward side and goes through the main stack to what? To your sewage system. And odors goes from this main stack back out to eliminate the effects of odor in the kitchen, in the toilet and the kitchen environment as well. The same thing happens here when you're having your what? Lavatory. These are all type of vents that you can have. So you don't need a vent. You need to create a vent where each of the bottle traps shall be protected against siphon and bad pressure through venting. But you don't need a vent on a primary settling tank, most especially your sewage tank. And that's why another way of eliminating odor from your sewage tank is, if you look at some sewage tank, you see something like a rectangular box on top of it, and it has a perforated hole. The advantage of this is to help you eliminate odor and pressure within the sewage system. And also, you will have a spiral chimney on it. The more the breeze blows, the chimney, the more it eliminates odor from your sewage system. So these are all pictorial view of your sewage system. It all depends on how you want it. You have a channel where the water comes in, and if you look at this has something like a soak away pit where the water goes out and it percolates. So every of your manhole, every of your sewage system must have a dedicated manhole whereby you can go open it, go inside and do one or two maintenance, or go inside to do what is referred to as evacuation. These are all your stats. Then this is majorly area where you can find this is on your roof. It's called a roof drain. The advantage of having this on your roof is, most especially if the roof is exposed to the sky. If the roof is not the normal iron roof and it is a concrete roof, it must definitely have a roof drain, so that anytime it's raining, all the water are being converged into the roof drain, and with that roof drain, it follows the wastewater line and goes into your sewage system, or you diverge it into the what? Into the public drain if it is not contaminated through your roof gutter as well. So this is already 3 minutes to 6. We're quickly going to observe our 10-minute break. We're going to come back 3 minutes to 6. We're going to come back by 6:07. This is 5:57. We'll come back from the short break by 6:07. So when we come back from break, we'll discuss with water treatment plants in the facility and sewage treatment plants in the facility. Thank you very much. See you by 6:08.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Hello. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Yeah,
Hello,
we can hear
sir.
you, sir.
Welcome
Hello,
back.
sir. Good day is fine.
So water treatment in facility. For us to run an effective facility, we need water, which is very, very key. Water and power are very, very important when it comes to facility management. And don't forget, I said something when we were discussing plumbing that the water we're using, we're getting that water from the source. We have, like I said, we could get our water from rainwater, it could be from the brook, it could be from the sea, be from the river, and all those stuff. But then, during the primitive age, we still give one or two treatments to the water. And I could remember the only treatment we do is that the highest thing we do then is add alum, so that all the contaminants we settle at the base of the pan and receive it and get that water into use. But now technology has gone to the extent that part of the building code is you have to have a treated water that is safe for either drinking or for domestic purpose within your facility. Now, the best thing before you set up your water treatment plant is you do a borehole. Then before you even actually do a borehole, the first thing you actually needed to do is you need to do what is referred to as geophysical survey of the site where you actually want to use the water. When you conduct the geophysical survey of that site, it helps you to know the depth of where you are going to get a better water in terms of volume, because the survey will not actually tell you the quality of water that you're going to see, but it's going to tell you the aquifers, several layers of aquifer in the soil where you can tap your water from. Then, after you have done your survey, The survey will actually indicate the depth to which you can go. 60 meter, 100 meter, 140 meter. This will now determine what will be the cost of material, what will be the cost of drilling per meter that a borehole expert will use to charge you for drilling of that borehole. So if anybody is giving you cost of drilling in advance, is either the person is underbilling you or overbilling you. But the best way to get it accurately is for you to conduct a survey of the site. Let the survey tells you where and where you are actually going to in terms of depth. Once the borehole is being dug, the next thing you need to do is for you to take a sample of the water that is coming from the borehole to a NAFDAC approved laboratory for what you refer to as water analysis. You analyze the water. When you analyze it, it's actually going to tell you what are the physical, chemical, and biological issues that the water is having. Then the purpose to which you want to use the water for will also determine the kind of treatment you are going to give to the water. If I need water for my car wash, I don't need to start thinking about installing a distillation water purifier in my facility. If all I needed to use the water for is watering my garden alone, I don't need to set up a water treatment plant. If I need the water within the facility for domestic purposes, I need a water treatment plant. Then what type of water treatment do I need? What is going to be the composition of that water treatment plant? Because the problem that water normally has are physical problem, chemical problem, or biological problem. Physical problem in the sense that, remember in those days, we've been told that water must be colorless, odorless, and tasteless. This is nothing but just only the physical aspect of, let me say, the physical parameters of water. When you're talking about the chemical parameter, these are the soft solid minerals in your water, because the soil where the water is coming from has an aquifer. And don't forget, when it's rain, what happens? The soil receives the rain, and the rainwater, the rainwater, it percolates. When it percolates, because of the compartment of the soil serves as a filter. It filters away all the jets like nylon, bottled water, sticks, sands, and all those things. So the only thing you have percolating into the earth crust is a cleaner water, because the soil, the compounded soil, has already served as a filter. This water find its way down to the aquifer where your bore water is coming from. And these water are the water that is recharging your aquifer. And that's why day in, day out, your aquifer doesn't run out of water. It doesn't, because the water that forms the aquifer is not coming from one single region alone. And because of these minerals that are dissolved in the aquifer, this mineral comes out with your water. And that's why when your water is devoid of oxygen rather, when your water is devoid of oxygen, the water will smell. And that's why you do what is called aeration when you're treating the water. Now, these minerals dissolve in the water. It's not that these minerals are dangerous to our health, but because these minerals there are certain consumption limits. Like your iron has a consumption limit, your lead has consumption limit, the soft chlorine has a consumption limit, the soft sulfur has consumption limit, manganese, nitrate, nitrite, hardness. These and all of them have certain consumption limits. And I'm going to show it to us in the course of this class. That consumption limits are what you must not exceed. Now, the biological aspect of the water is we are talking about coliform, Escherichia, E. coli, and all Plasmodium. These are all biological aspects of water, and each of them has a certain limit that are being allowed in your water. And that's why once you do the analysis of your water, then anybody can now send you a quotation based on the result of analysis that this is what is required to eliminate all these challenges that this water is having. And after the treatment, another analysis needs to be conducted to prove that those challenges, those issues relating to that water has been eliminated. So, and this is where purification comes into place. Purification is a means of treating your water. And what does purification do? It removes contaminants from untreated water. And what are those contaminants? Algae, which is a biological contaminant, viruses, biological contaminants, bacteria, biological contaminants, manganese is a chemical contaminant, suspended solid are all chemical contaminants, iron, sulfur. The goal of water purification is to produce water that is fit for what? A specific what? Purpose, either drinking or domestic purposes, which these are part of what we have discussed: chemical, biological, and physical. Chemical include application of chlorine or the use of UV sterilizer, which is ultraviolet light. Biological process is the use of active carbon and slow sand filter. That's why when you see carbon in your filtration media, it's actually meant to eliminate odor from your water. Then, and what normally causes odor is absence of oxygen in the aquifer where the water is coming out. And when there is no oxygen, you are talking about anaerobic water parameters. And that's why you see in some facility you have an aeration tank. Aeration is another means of eliminating certain percentage, a huge percentage of odor in your water. And when you aerate, you inject air. When you inject the air, you are injecting oxygen. You are incorporating oxygen back into the water to eliminate the odor. And when you aerate, you can do aeration in two forms. You can do what is referred to as air to water or water to air. Air to water means you are going to install a blower. The blower will come up at a certain period to blow air into the water. And once that is being done, is injecting oxygen into the water. Or you do water to air. You allow the water to fall into the aeration tank in form of a shower. As soon as the water is coming down, air is blowing the water and is eliminating the odor out. These are means of removing odor in your water. Then the physical process includes sedimentation, filtration, and distillation. Distillation is the process through which you use to get distilled water, which are used for surgical apparatus. And most of the time, it is not advisable to use distillation because it involves the usage of a lot of power. So this is actually tenable in nuclear reactor environment. So those nuclear wastes are being used to what? To provide thermal power, and that thermal power is being used for what? Physical distillation of water, and the water that is getting from there is distilled water, which are being used in chemical and medical environment. 3 steps of water purification include sediment filter, kinetic degradation flotation, and activated carbon filter. Activated carbon filter also help you to eliminate odor. Then sediment filter help you to remove percolate, and your kinetic degradation is injection of chlorine into the water. That is, you eliminate chlorine from the water and you convert it to what? Chloride. So this is a distillation, the process of removing water from its contaminant. It involves converting water into vapor state, and the vapor form water droplet. The water droplet is allowed to cool and it's being conveyed and collected as normal treated water. Then the filtration, you have sand, you have quartz sand, sharp sand, fine sand, with other carbon media and some other chemical reagents in the media to help you do what is referred to as filtration. Is removal of remaining particles in water through a filter. The suspended impurities in water are collected by what? Filtration. Water is passed through a filter at control rate. The filter are regularly cleaned by backwashing. It's just like when you do what we call a filtration process through using a filter paper in chemistry in those days. So the only thing that goes out of your filtration system is a clean water, and the dirt and contaminants are already trapped in the filtration media. And the only way you can use to remove this already trapped dirt is through what is referred to as backwashing. Coagulation is a chemical process of treating water by adding alum. When you add alum into the water, it allows the water to form coagulants. And these coagulants, because of the fact that they bond together, they become heavier than the water itself. So they form to the base of the container that contains them and form a what? Sediment. And this is actually achieved through the injection of chlorine. Flocculation is the same thing as coagulation, just like the way it is in using of alum. Sedimentation, when you use alum, all these particles settles at the base of the container. And most of the time, if you are treating water in a larger form, you could be generating sludge. And this sludge can be eliminated and converted, and they can be eliminated dry and disposed of. But when you gather sludge in wastewater treatment plant, that sludge can be treated and you can generate a biofuel from it as well. We're still going to discuss that when we get to sewage treatment plant. Then disinfection is injection of chlorine. You can also disinfect by using UV sterilizer. We inject chlorine into the water to eliminate bacteria. Then also, your chlorine also serves as a bleaching agent. Apart from the fact that it's serving as a disinfectant, it also serves as a bleaching agent as well. Then your chlorine and your fluorine, they are both doing the same work. So chlorination and fluoridation in water treatment plant are the same thing. Reverse osmosis is another means of treating water after you have allowed the water to pass through the normal treatment water plant. Then you can use reverse osmosis to further purify the water. And reverse osmosis is like movement from higher concentration to lower concentration through a semi-permeable membrane to generate what is referred to as a cleaner and a pH quality water. And reverse osmosis water are crystal clear, and their total dissolved solid in reverse osmosis water are less than 10 ppm. And that's the reason why it is always safe for drinking. So, like I said earlier on, that before you inject or install your water treatment plant, you need to understand what purpose do you want to use water for? What is the capacity you are looking at? That is when you can now decide that, okay, I needed to have a quotation for a water treatment plant. Knowing the water quality is major key in installing a water treatment plant. It determines the application for treatment. With water with higher quality will require minimal treatment. Then consider this following factors. Are there any hardness in the water? What is in the water? What is the water quality that is needed? What treatment capability are you looking at? What are you actually providing for? Is it good quality water or water for domestic purpose only? The treated water reduces harsh effects on skin, and the treated water does not damage laundry. These are all you need to consider before you start thinking about setting up a water treatment plant. Then, like I said, that you need to conduct analysis of your water, both raw borehole and treated water analysis as well. What you are actually trying to check is that you are checking for the physical parameter, chemical parameter, and biological parameter. Chemical parameter in the sense that to determine the amount of organic substances and mineral that affect or can affect the quality of the water. Then you want to know in terms of the pH, because NAFDAC and WHO recommended that a pH value of between 6.5 to 8.5 is actually recommended for drinking water. So you want to ensure that your water meets up with that standard. Then biological test is to determine, to confirm the amount of organic load of dissolved organic compound like your E. coli, your Plasmodium, your Escherichia, and your coliform that's already dissolved in the water. It also indicates the presence of, it helps us to determine the presence of microorganisms, mainly bacteria, in the water. And these are the acceptable parameters from NAFDAC as far as water is concerned. Your pH must be between 6.5 to 8.5. Your turbidity, that is, if you look at some water, they are a bit clearer, but if you look at it, it looks like it's a bit chalky. It looks like a mix of chalk. That is turbidity. Clarity of sample indicates water contamination. Then chlorine, your residual chlorine must not be more than between 1 to 0.2, between 0.2 to 1 ppm. ppm means part per million. Then your total dissolved solid, those are the dissolved mineral solid in the water, must not be more than 500 milligram per liter. Your copper, 1.3 milligram per liter, manganese, 0.05, chloride, 250 milligram, sulfate, 250 milligram, and iron must be 0.3 milligram in presence in the water. So how do you control your pH in water? The best you can do is you can introduce lime or you introduce soda ash. These are the two chemicals that can help you to control or adjust your pH as far as your water is concerned. So what are those maintenance activities you carry out in your water treatment plant? On a daily basis, you check the dosing of the chemical, do what is referred to as backwashing of the filter vessels, check for the functionality of the pump, your filtration pump, your dosing pump, and the stirrer, your transfer pump. Then you can check the pH with your pH meter as well. Then on a monthly basis, what are those maintenance activities that you carry out? You wash your dosing tanks and you do a fresh chemical dosing. You service the chemical dosing equipment, service the filtration and transfer pump. Then on a 6-month basis, you must take a sample of the treated water to the lab and conduct water analysis, because when regulatory body or health, Ministry of Health or NAFDAC visits your information, the first thing they're actually going to demand for is, where is your water analysis? And if you don't have, it might be a lot of issues. It will sanction you and shut your system down. Yeah. On a quarterly basis, you wash all the aeration tanks and the storage tank and replace your filter media as well. Then annually, you carry out overhaul of the pump, replace seals, impeller, valves, kits, carry out overhaul of the filter vessel, then tighten bolts and nuts and replace weak ones. Annually, you must service your bowl by doing what is referred to as flushing of your bowl. When you flush the bowl, you'll be able to eliminate a lot of dirt that might, one way or the other, clog the screen. This helps you to elongate the life of your borehole. And what are those hazards that we might come across in our water treatment plant? Exposure to hazardous substances. And that's why I try as much as possible to advise, if you are asthmatic patient, please try not to near chlorine, because chlorine has a choking kind of smell. So try to avoid that. Trip and fall, exposure to high level noise, exposure to toxic substance, electric shock, fire hazard, suffocation. So what are the preventive measures you can do? Safety shoes with non-skid sole should be worn at any time, at all time. Use appropriate ear protection system. Provide guard, properly guard all equipment moving parts. Using MMS, MSDS, that's manufacturer safety data sheet. This is all available for every chemical you could be using in your treatment plant environment. Check the air quality of the confined area space. Thoroughly check all electrical equipment. Res, use respirator and gas mask. Wear coverall and wear hand glove. These are all safety parameters. And what are those components you can come across in a water treatment plant area? You have an aeration tank, which I've already mentioned, that it helps you to eliminate a greater percentage of odor from your water. Then you have filtration filters or vessels. This is where you have your carbon media, your sand media, your bear, your resins, and all water treatment media. And most of the time, you can have them in 2-stage or in 3-stage. It all depends on the peculiarity and the challenges with the water. Then you have dosing pump. The dosing pump function is to inject chemical, already mixed chemical, from the dosing tank into the raw bowl that is coming in. If you look at your facility, you see that this dosing pump is always connected at the inlet point where water enters the aeration tank. Stirrer. The reason why you need stirrer in your dosing chemical is because there are some of these chemicals that they are not completely soluble in water. Like your lime is not completely soluble in water. Your chlorine is not completely soluble in water. So if you are to use chlorine in your water treatment plant, you need to install a stirrer. And the reason why is that once the dosing pump is working, the stirrer is as well working, and it keeps stirring that chlorine solution. It doesn't allow that chlorine solution to settle, because if you allow it to settle, what you're actually injecting into the water is not chemical. It is just ordinary colored water. And that is one of the advantage of the having that stirrer installed on your dosing tank. It's a mechanical device used for stirring chemical added in the dosing storage, used for flocculation to create the desired flow or condition, used to flocculate the particle in the water. Then, like chemical like alum and soda ash, they are completely soluble in water. Once you put them in water, they dissolve completely and you don't come to see them. They don't settle at the base of the container that contains them. So like I earlier mentioned, it helps to avoid the chemicals settling at the bottom of the tank. These are part of what you come across in your treatment plant, your transfer pump, your filtration pump, or overhead pump. Pumps are used to transfer water to water storage tank. Its primary function is to move water from one location to the other. Water is transferred when the pump creates a pressure difference. The pressure difference is what draws the water in the transfer, and it transfers it as the pressure changes again. And that brings us to sewage treatment plant. This treated water is being used within the facility, and once being used, what we generate from it is a wastewater. Then how do we treat as sewage? Because in Lagos State, part of Lagos State Building Code is that you cannot discharge wastewater into the public drain. It is illegal, and you could be penalized if you find doing that. But if you treat your water, as long as it meets the prerequisite or the standard required for wastewater. And when you're talking about the waste treatment plant, what is sewage? The sewage is household liquid waste from our bathroom, from our toilet, from our kitchen, or liquid waste from industrial uses as well. Most facility always have a centralized sewage treatment plant, and every wastewater from the entire facility are being channeled to the same single sewage treatment plant. In that sewage treatment plant, what happens is this has a primary chamber, it has a secondary chamber, and that secondary chamber are being divided into two. And the final stage is a tertiary chamber. And before the primary chamber, you have what is called a collector. So once the waste is coming from every drainages within the entire facility, it comes into what is called a grease screen. The screen looks like a net. This screen out all foreign material like dirt, wood, plastic, nylon, gloves, sandals, every bigger item that could find their way into the sewage system, they being eliminated at that point. But there is no how some stones, some sand, some pebbles, some food-related material like rice grain, pepper, fufu grain, eba grain, apple, and all these will not find their way or find their way into that same drainage. And these are all biological related components. So by the time it gets to the primary chamber or the equalization chamber or tank, what that does is it allows some of the public, that is where what we call ruffling take place. Ruffling in the sense that all the sand, stones, and everything are being ruffled together to become a smaller particles. And in doing that, there are some of these particles that float, that stand afloat on top of the water. And what you do is that these are, after the ruffling is being done, it is being sent into the secondary chamber, the first stage of the secondary chamber, which is referred to as the settling tank. And inside the settling tank, that is where your aeration takes place. Because this is being left inside that settling tank for a certain period of time, in which all the sands, all the food items are completely settled at the base of the secondary treatment plant. And at times, depending on how you want to treat your sewage, some people had biological microorganisms to fast track the breaking down of all these food waste, to fast track the breaking down of this food waste, and they become sludge. And that's why in the secondary compartment of a sewage treatment plant, you can generate what we call a sludge. If you eliminate this sludge, if you remove this sludge and you culture it, and it gives you a certain percentage of presence of biofuel, you could use it to produce biofuel at the same time. Then from the first stage of the secondary treatment, it goes to the second stage of secondary treatment. This is where clarification takes place, and this is where filtration and every other thing takes place. And from there, you send it to the tertiary point. And at that tertiary point, that is where injection of chlorine takes place. That is where chlorification takes effect. And when you chlorinate, after chlorination, you take a sample of the treated wastewater and you take it to the lab. If it meets the biological oxygen demand, that water is safe to be discharged into the public drain. Nobody will penalize you, or nobody will hold you responsible for doing that. But if you don't have that analysis in place, please don't try it. So there are several types of sewage treatment plants. We have activated sludge processes, and we have rotating biological contactors system. Then we have extended aeration treatment plants. And in extended aeration treatment plant, there are just solid and liquid waste in the central compartment, which is aerated for a longer period of time. Sludge is removed between the period of 1 to 2 years. Do not work well when overloaded. That is the disadvantage of extended aeration sewage treatment plants. Then we have filter sewage treatment plants. We have rich bed sewage treatment plants. These are all types of sewage treatment plants we can have. We have submerged aerated filter sewage treatment plants, suspended filter sewage treatment plants, and sequencing batch reactor. These are all type of sewage treatment plants we can have. And how do you maintain your sewage treatment plants? It requires a quarterly, biannually, and annually maintenance. And ensure maintenance are carried out to ensure that the plant and all its equipment and all its tools function efficiently. And maintenance prevents plants from becoming a pollution hazard, because if your sewage is not properly maintained, it could be causing a lot of pollution outside into the environment, and this could lead to a legal issue within the environment where that thing is located. And what is the process which is I've mentioned? Pretreatment, removal of material from the raw sewage, and those materials are trash, stick, rag, cans, leaves, branches. Pretreatment is carried out with mechanical automated bar screen for large population, manual screen for small population. The screen remove all these unwanted and foreign materials as well. Then part of the pretreatment is removal of grit, adjusting incoming sewage velocity, allowing sand, stone, grit to settle, removal of large objects, then removal of grease and fat. You can remove the grease and fat, then equalizing the flow of the sewage. Then now go to the primary treatment. The primary treatment is you hold the sewage for a period of time. At times we refer it as secondary treatment stage 1, and you have secondary system stage 2, or you call it primary treatment and secondary treatment. It all depends. So the stage 1, which is the primary or stage 1 or secondary stage 1, is where you allow the sewage to stay in the container for a certain period of time for microorganism breakdown. Enable heavy solid to settle at the base, floating of soil, solid oil and grease to the basin surface, removal of floating and settled material, discharge of remaining liquid into the water, to the secondary treatment. And in the secondary treatment, what you do is that you removing of suspended and biological matter, separation of microorganisms from the treated water, breakdown of small and invisible nasty bugs, and eating of bugs by what? Bacteria. This is where biology decomposition takes place. Then, in the secondary treatment, you have fixed film or attached growth system. Then you have suspended growth system. Then after this, you talk about the tertiary system, where you do injection of your chlorine, that is chlorination or fluorination. And it is only after this you have defected the wastewater that you can now stand the chance of discharging it into the public drain, and it finds its way into the lagoon. Then the sludge that you accumulated, you generated from the secondary treatment, you can treat that sludge by equalizing it, drying it, and also if it's you culture it and you do the analysis of that sample of that sludge, and it contains some certain parameter that can help you to generate biofuel from it. You can now use it to produce biofuel. But before you can do that, you must have produced that sludge in a large form, and that sludge can be used. You can convert it to thermal energy, and from thermal energy, you use it to drive mechanical devices that generate electricity. So what are the operation and maintenance that require in sewage treatment plants? Pumping and aeration control. Pump required for treatment plant process, sludge removal. Then the type of pumps you find in your sewage and sludge treatment plant are not the type you find in your water treatment environment, because the pump that are being used for sludge or waste are pumped with completely open impeller or semi-open impeller, that there's no amount of particle that can store to block the impeller eye of that pump. So these are the standard parameters expected of your wastewater after you have treated it. The pH must be between 6.5 to 7.5. The BOD, which is biological oxygen demand, must be between 200 and 250 milligram per liter. And after treatment, it must be less than 10 milligram per liter. Your turbidity must be, there's no any specific limit for turbidity, but it's after treatment, it must be less than 10 NTU. And your E. coli, which is a biological parameter, which you cannot rule out in your wastewater, must not be what? Seen in that water. Then environmental implication of sewage treatment plants. Odor, 1. Then 2, odor can be reduced by, how do you control the odor? By dosing of chlorine, by carbon reactor, calcium nitrate injection, hydrogen peroxide injection, iron salt injection. Then effluent quality. Sewage must be adequately treated to avoid effluent emitting bad odor. Reduce the level of the BOD, biological oxygen demand, and pathogen release into the air. Reduce bacteria and organic pollutants from the water, from the sewage treatment plant. And don't forget, your sewage treatment plant, if they are not properly maintained, it can be causing corrosion in your piping network as well. And when you have your piping corroded, that shows that you have to be changing your pipe each and every now and then. And the other thing is that there's no how you're going to have a sewage treatment plant. You won't have all these ants that look like cockroach, but they don't have feather like normal cockroach. They are referred to as midgets. These are very, very attractive to anywhere there is a sewage system. You need to ensure that the manholes that you can use to access the sewage they are well sealed, that those cockroaches cannot find their way out. And also disinfect your liquid content as that went due. Then midgets either called fly larvae, blood or red worm strife in STP, which is sewage treatment plants. The charge of inadequately treated sewage causes midgets. Midgets is a potential health problem in sewage treatment plants, and they can help in spreading of disease. The charging of poorly untreated sewage can cause a lot of diseases, can cause a lot of health issues, and the sewage discharge can cause water pollution. It can also spread diseases and destroy aquatic living. So serious environmental and health implications. Then you have pathogen, which may end up in swimming pool and drinking water. Which may cause and may result into dysentery, hepatitis, diarrhea, respiratory infection, and heart disease. These are all what are the diseases that are generated when your sewage treatment plants are not well maintained and not well equipped. And an estimate by the Environmental Protection Agency shows that between 1.8 to 3.5 million people get sick from contact with sewage from the overflow of sanitary sewer annually. Short illness and diseases can be very deadly for children and also affect about 30% of the elderly and other patients with weak immune system. So you can see how this thing can be causing us to lose a lot of our viable mothers and children if they are not well maintained and protected. And this brings us to the end of plumbing, water treatment plants, and wastewater treatment plants. I'm going to leave room for question and answer. We have 10 minutes to 7. So let's roll out a question for that 10 minutes. Thank you very much. Kindly signify by raising up your hand. Madam Philomena, please go ahead. Madam Philomena, go ahead with your question, please. Madam Philomena,
Hello,
we cannot
sir.
hear you. Hello?
I can hear you clearly, sir.
Yeah, Mr. Osman, go ahead, please.
Yeah, hello.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, well done, sir.
Thank you very much, sir.
There's a whole lot today. Okay, my question is actually on the, you talked about the overhead tank.
Okay.
And most times you say when water are transferred into the overhead tank, especially on the building that are on, let's assume on 3 to 5 floors, the water is being, how will I call it now? The water is being supplied via gravitation, force of gravitation. From my experience, there's a facility here in Asukuru, Abuja,
Okay.
where it's on the 3rd floor with a penthouse.
Okay.
So, and then over time, we have the pressure of water, you know, going into all the various offices and then the apartment spaces. It's not that really, it's not strong enough. There's no pressure.
Okay.
So most times you find out that once the level of the water at the overhead tank reduces, you find out that some section, you know, a section of the property will not have water. And then what we did was to introduce a pressure pump.
Oh.
Yes,
Along the
so
line.
at the along the line, the overhead that will supply to both wings. One takes from the other left wing and then the other one for the right wing. So, and that was why we're able to, you know, sustain or increase the pressure, you know, to all the spaces that we have. So the question now is that what happened? Is it that could there be in terms of the piping, or what could that be that, because you said that the overhead tank, once you have supplied by gravitation from that overhead tank, you find out that you said the frequency, you know, is it the pressure? You said the pressure is the same. It maintains, there's no
Okay.
differentials in terms of
Okay.
the
What I
pressure.
said is
So
that
I need to understand, yes.
when you use overhead storage facility,
Yeah.
you are distributing water to the entire facility via gravity.
Yes.
And that's why there will always be a pressure differential. There will always be difference in pressures.
Okay.
That's why you see, because of the gravity issue, some parts will have good pressure. Most especially people who are staying on the ground floor will enjoy more pressure compared to people who are staying on the first floor, if it happens to be a two-story.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Then the other thing that can still cause it is this: if you are using gravity and your water has ion, there is no how the water will not be settling within the piping network. The more the water keeps settling within the piping network, it will come to a point in some years later, like 3 or 5 years later, the diameter of that piping network will have been reduced by half or by 3/4 because of the accumulation of those ion content. They must have been settling inside that pipe, and that will reduce the supply of water to some certain area within that facility. The best you can do to push those sediments out is for you to install a pressure pump to push it out. Then the other thing that can cause it is that you gain in pressure when you are moving from a bigger diameter to a smaller diameter. But when you are moving from a smaller diameter to a bigger diameter, you lose pressure. So if the supply pipe that comes to those floors are 3 inches pipe, or let me say they are 3/4 pipe,
yes,
and when they get upstairs, that 3/4 pipe, they now reduce it to 1/2 inch pipe and use it to distribute water to the toilet and some area. There could be, because of gravity supply, there could be differential, there could be a difference in pressure in some area. But for those kind of distribution, what you expect to bring in into that place is you come completely with a 1 inch pipe into the toilet area, then reduce it to what? 3/4. Because at every point in time, you have a huge volume of water inside the 1 inches pipe. Then when you now supply with 3/4, then each of those points will have a more normal flow of water. Those are the only 3 things that can cause it. It could be a settlement of debt. It could be non-conformity with the required set of pipe when they are doing the piping networking. Or because if the overhead tank is not up to the roof level, you may not be getting a proper flow of water in terms of gravity. But when you have all your storage tank on the floor and you want to lift water from the ground floor to the last floor, you need what we call electromechanical, which is you need a pumping machine with a pressure pump on it.
Yeah.
And with electromechanical, you have equal pressure all through the whole entire system. The advantage of electromechanical is that once there is no power, there is no water.
Okay. Then secondly, I think I agree with you. I agree with you on the you talked about having high content of chlorine, probably in the iron in the water. So second, that brings me to, you talked about the issue of the piping, galvanized, you have the UPVC, the PPR, and all of that. Yeah, so now you have a situation like this particular structure I'm talking about now. It's currently being as at I think the building was built over 20 years ago. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me, sir?
I can hear you.
Okay, now this building was built over 20 years ago.
Okay.
And the piping system that was used, actually this galvanized piping system. And as I speak to you, like you rightly mentioned during the class, you said that the issue, one of the disadvantage of galvanized is that it causes you begin to see over time, leakages and all that through the walls, and
you cannot eliminate rust as well.
And you cannot eliminate rust. I think that's the major challenge now with this structure, as I speak to you right now. And for me, that means to correct that now, one needs to redo some of the piping system so that to be able to correct.
Exactly.
Okay.
But the only thing is that because you might not have the financial capacity to actually get that done, you could plan it and do it in a phase-wise manner. If it's a block of flat, you could take each of the flats one at a go.
Oh, okay.
So it could be a kind of project you could plan for a period of 2 years. It all depends on your financial capacity.
Okay. All right, sir. That'll be all. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Madam Philomena, you raised up your hand the other time. Can you unmute yourself and ask your question?
I think it was Madam Victoria that raised up her hand.
Okay, Madam Victoria, please go ahead.
Oh, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
I was not raising my hand. I was actually reacting. I was clapping for the presentation. I was appreciating the presentation.
Go ahead with your question, ma'am.
I don't have any questions.
Oh, okay. Thank you very much.
Okay, let me just use this opportunity. Initially, when you mentioned overhead tank, you said there is another pipe that used to be at the side, and that one, I didn't get that very well.
Yeah, the reason why you always put that pipe beside it is to eliminate airlock within the piping network, because if that pipe is not there, you could have what you refer to as airlock within the system. There could be water inside that tank, and water will not be flowing inside. And the second function of that pipe is that once, if you look at that pipe, it's always maintain the same height with the height of the storage tank. Once the water inside the storage tank is about to get filled up, you will see water coming out from that pipe. That tells you that is another thing to signal to you that your water tank is already filled up. then you can switch off your pumping machine.
Thank you, sir. I've
You're much welcome.
actually not, I've not noticed that kind of pipe. I will just go and thank you, sir.
Mr. Toby, go ahead with your question. Mr. Toby,
thank you so much.
Yeah, Mr. Toby, go ahead.
Thank you, sir.
Madam Adara, I'll get back to you, please.
So, I have one question. One of the questions I have is, if you are in a, say for instance, a duplex building, and you are beginning to see a lot of water particles coming out from your pipes, but the problem is, on a normal day, it didn't to come out like that, but over the years, like the building is, give or take, as the other gentleman said, it's an old house. It's about 20 years old, basically. They used, the pipes are not galvanized pipes, that the rubber plastic pipes as well, PVC. But the problem is particles are beginning to come out. And so I know you said something about either using pressure pump to flush out all the particles out. But then I also considered filtration system. That would it be possible to consider a filtration system on the inlet pipe going into the house, making sure that all the dirt and particles that want to come out are filtered by the filtration system instead of a pressure pump? But then obviously when you talk about the pressure pump, that's when I considered the pressure pump as well. That's also another strategy to make sure you get rid of all the particles. But I think, I'm not sure, I think the particles are coming from the reservoir instead of the tank itself. So that's why I'm a bit confused. Which one do you think, in that kind of situation, which one do you think will be a better way to get rid of all those particles? Thank you, sir.
Okay. If I can understand you very well, that means you have a borehole. The borehole water passes through your filtration and it goes to the underground tank. And from the underground tank, you pump the water and distribute into the facility. Now, I was about asking you, the first question I'm going to ask is that do you have a treatment plant in place in that facility?
No, sir. No, there used to be a treatment plant, but then the water became clean.
If you're actually seeing particles, that's the first area where your issue is coming from. That means the particles are actually coming from your borehole. Then the second thing is, when was the last time you washed your storage tanks? Because to me, your storage tanks are expected to be subject to washing on a quarterly basis. Then two, the storage tank, do they have a cover that completely seals them from the sky? If the answer is no, you would definitely see particle within the building. So these are first things you need to correct.
Okay.
You need to first of all correct all those things. Get a treatment plant put in place. Then get all the piping network flushed with a pressure pump and ensure all the storage tanks are washed thoroughly. Then I can guarantee you that will eliminate all those particles you are seeing within the facility.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much.
You're much welcome. Yeah. Madam Adara.
Yes. Good evening, sir.
Good evening, madam.
Okay, sir. During the course of your class, you mentioned something about the pressure. Why? Okay, in a building that is a bungalow, you said that if it's a bungalow, that the pressure is usually saturated, like it's even. But sometimes you find out in some location that some building, their restroom, the tap in their restroom rushes faster than the one in their lunchroom. So what could be the cause of that?
Okay, I think I gave the same scenario when the first person that asked question and he said he has the same challenge in one of their facilities in Abuja. When you are not using the right size of piping network, that could cause it, because when you are moving from a bigger pipe to a lesser pipe, you gain in terms of pressure. But when you are moving from a lesser pipe, a smaller pipe to a bigger pipe, you lose pressure. Then the second thing is that I only gave the example of a bungalow, which is just a building without a story building. When you are distributing water, you distribute with gravity. But when you have a story building and you are distributing water with gravity, there is tendency, and this is actually prone to happen. The people on the ground floor will have a better pressure flow in terms of water compared to people who are staying on the first floor, because with gravity, there is always what we call a pressure differential. But when you have your storage facility on the surface floor and you are actually trying to distribute water from the first floor to the last floor, which is 5 building, you have to use electromechanical. Even if it is a bungalow, once you are having your tank on the floor and it is not on a stanchion, you have to distribute water via electromechanical. But if it is on a stanchion, you're actually doing gravity. But when your piping network are not properly done, you are going to have pressure differential. Some area will have a good pressure quality, while some area will have less pressure quality. Those are the things that can cause it in normal plumbing network.
All right, thank you, sir.
You're much welcome, Madam Adara.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a question, sir. Can I go on now?
Madam Modupe. Okay. Madam, go ahead with your question.
Philomena.
Go ahead, man.
Okay, so I was wondering, when you mentioned that NAFDAC would have to run some tests on the different chemical components in the water and how best to purify the water depending on what the water is meant for.
I didn't say NAFDAC, man. I said you need to send your water for a laboratory analysis. And that laboratory must be a NAFDAC approved laboratory.
Pardon me, sir. So my question is that supposed to be a one-off thing, especially in a large facility where you have like an estate now? How often should water be checked to ensure that it is safe for usage, especially drinking and cooking? That's my question.
Okay, ma'am. In line with NAFDAC regulation and Lagos State and building codes, if you are dealing with water, which is either used for domestic or other usage, as long as it involves domestic, you must analyze your water, treated water, every 6-month interval. Every 6 months, you must analyze your water, and you must have that result at your disposal. If you have a sewage treatment plant, you must conduct the analysis of your sewage treatment plant every 6 months, and you must have it at your disposal, because if Ministry of Health or NAFDAC official visit your facility, those are part of what they are going to require from you. So it's necessary, ma'am.
I'm asking this question because the where I live, the facility is being managed by, I really don't know the name of those managing the facility. There's a lot of challenges here, but I have not seen any such
actually, information like that are not expected to be shared with tenants.
It hardly happens. So there's no safety. There's no
information like that are not expected to be shared with tenants, man. That is completely the information of the facility management company and the owner of the facility.
Okay. Okay. My other clarification is, when you were talking about the different angle to be used in, when you are building.
Yes, sir.
I wasn't clear, because there are some, you said you don't use the straight pipe, you use the curved and all that. It's a bit confusing, sir.
Actually, sorry about that. Maybe you are getting new to plumbing for the first time. The reason why they are saying this is that if you look at your building at home, by the time you get back home, I wouldn't know the actual floor where you are staying. Maybe you are staying on the first floor or second floor. You discover that even if, irrespective of the floor you are staying, you have what is referred to as a floor drain in your floor. And when you take your bath, you have floor drain in your toilet, you have in your bedroom, you have in your kitchen. When you use water, you mop the floor. This water goes away. You don't know where that water goes to. These are all plumbing wastewater piping network that convey the water. It conveys the water, take it to the central sewage system. And there is what we call post-maintenance planning. Post-maintenance planning says that when you are doing all this plumbing network, you must create a room for post-maintenance activity. And that's why they said there must be a clean out so that in case there is a blockage in your toilet somewhere later in the future, and you call a plumber, the plumber knows exactly where to go. To you, as a layperson, you'll be wondering, where is this blockage coming from? But a plumber comes around and he knows the right thing to open. By the time he opens that place and he picks out one or two things, the flood drain starts flowing again. These are all prerequisites. These are all things that needed to be done so that you have a free flow of water and you have a free maintenance activity when you are doing your maintenance work in the near future as far as plumbing is concerned.
Thank you, sir.
You're much welcome, man.
Someone should ask for recommendation on the best type of water system, borehole, whatever. Which one? I know it depends on the kind of structure, either maybe a single house, or which one is advisable on the different level. If I want to build a story building now,
yes,
what would you advise in terms of borehole?
Okay. I think currently now, the best everybody is doing is borehole. Nobody does well water anymore. What is taking the order of the day is borehole. Then, even if at all it's just only 3-bedroom flat, that doesn't stop you from having a borehole. If you are going to have an estate, it still doesn't stop you from having a borehole. The only difference is that when you are doing a borehole for a 3-bedroom flat, you need little amount of water. Your water usage on a daily basis cannot be more than 2,000 liters by and large. But if you are having a 10 block of flat, you could be having, your usage could be turning to at least between 30,000 liters and 60,000 liters. So the yield of your borehole will determine if you can get a 60,000 liters of water from that borehole on a daily basis. It is not the water treatment that will determine that. Let's get it right. The water treatment doesn't determine the volume of water you are going to get. The borehole determines the volume of water you are going to get in your facility per day. If your borehole is yielding 5,000 liters of water per day, that is what your water treatment plant will produce. If your borehole is yielding 10,000 liters of water per day, that is what your water treatment plant will produce. Your water treatment cannot produce higher than what your borehole is yielding. And that's why you see in major estates, what you have is industrial borehole, not like normal domestic borehole you have in a 3-bedroom apartment.
Thank you, sir. But sir, how safe is borehole?
Borehole water is very, very safe because the water that is coming from the borehole is
water. The borehole
water is safe. The reason
borehole Sir, my question is, how safe is borehole itself to the facility? Because I heard
it is safe.
I've heard rumor that an estate with, like, maybe, this estate they build single unit apart stand alone, maybe what do you call it? Sorry, sir, I'm trying to pose my question. An estate where you have semi-detached and each semi-detached has its own duplex. How safe is that in an estate? Everyone has their own small borehole. Does it not have any effect?
It doesn't have any structural, it doesn't affect the structural integrity of the building. Not at all.
All right, sir.
Not at all.
All right, sir.
Yeah. Okay. I think, is it Mr. or Madam? Modupe Ladipo.
Okay, good evening, sir.
Good evening,
It's
madam.
the lady, yes, sir. Good
Okay,
evening.
ma'am.
Thank you very much, sir, for your very elaborate lecture, sir. God bless you. Okay, so
You're
my
much
question,
welcome.
location, I don't know. You just briefly said it's just like adding alum. I just want to understand what
It's
location
called flocculation.
flocculation. Okay.
Flocculation is like you're trying to, if you add alum to water, that sediment form what we call floc. Those floc, once they attach together, they become heavier than water. And that's why you could see a lot of dirt settling at the base of a container when you put alum into a colored water. What has taken effect is flocculation processes.
Okay, so that's different from alum. Adding.
You use
I just
alum. In alum, you get what is called coagulation. Coagulation and flocculation are the same thing. You can use alum. You can use alum. They are saying the same. Just like when you are saying fluoridation and chlorination. Fluorine and chlorine are the same group, are in the same group of chemical elements. You know, when we are talking about the first 20 elements in chemistry in those days, they are in the same group. You can use chlorine, you can use fluorine. When you use alum, you use alum to do coagulation, you use alum to do flocculation.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir. My second
You're
question.
much welcome. What do you say?
I said my second question, sir.
Go
You
ahead,
mentioned
ma'am.
that you can use the what do you call it now? The debris, the sand after like the sewage jet. Sorry, I've forgotten the terminology, but he said you can use it for energy generation, like power generation. How so?
What I
And
mean
why
is
is it that
that
we as Nigerians?
if you have a biological digester, or you have an effluent treatment plant, or you have a sewage treatment plant that is bigger enough, you can generate sludge, which are mechanical, biological, that has biological combinations in it. And these, you can use it to generate thermal energy. This thermal energy can be used to drive a mechanical drive that propel an electrical devices that generate electricity. You can use to generate electricity, and you can also use that sludge to generate biological fuel, which is biofuel. It's possible if you are generating in a large scale.
Okay, how large, sir? Because we have a sewage treatment plant, and I don't know. We usually evacuate.
Have you ever taken your sludge to the laboratory to culture it and analyze if that sludge has composition of biofuel in it? But unless I find out, I don't think we have a refinery that still does that currently. But I know a lot of facilities have biodigester and they flare their gas. Because the major gas composition that you get from a biodigester is methane, which is flammable. Methane, CH4 in chemistry, is flammable enough. They flare it.
Okay.
Yeah.
No problem, sir. And sorry,
You're much welcome.
last week, sorry.
Okay, question number 3. Go ahead, ma'am.
Question number 3. So we have overhead tank and we have the regular tank at the base. So the gravitational method of the way water can be distributed in a building, and the
Electromechanical.
it can work in the same building, right? Because I think that's what works in.
It can work in the same building, but it's just only that one have advantage, the other one don't have disadvantage. With gravity, you only need power to pump your water into your tank. Once the tank is filled up, you can shut down your power. Without power, you still have water. But with electromechanical, without power, there's no water. That's the difference between the two.
Okay, but like, the two of them can be used in the same building.
Why
Just
not?
for
If not,
efficiency.
it can. Yeah, I have
All right,
Mr.
thank you, sir.
Mopariola Benga. Is that all your questions, ma'am? Mr. Benga Mopariola.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
You're much welcome.
Good evening, sir. Thank you so much for your teaching.
Yes, sir.
I'm one of the latecomer.
No wahala, sir.
Let me say I'm just enjoying your class fully today.
Okay, sir.
I just want to ask about the aspect of the sewage treatment. Just as you said
Okay.
that Lagos State will not allow people to be channeled their waste to the gutter. It's a
Yes.
penalty. But my
Except
question
it
is this:
treated.
how about the building that have been, built for years, which they are not put, sewage treatment in.
You need to
in a
have that in
place.
place, sir. As soon as your building is getting to a 3-story a 2-story building, a 3-story building, you must have a sewage treatment plant. If you don't have, please do. The Lagos State Ministry of Environment has not visited you, doesn't indicate that they won't visit you one day. They don't want to know if the building has just been built yesterday or 30 years ago. You must have it. It's part of the building code.
But my question is this: most of the property owner, they find it difficult to avoid because
the first thing you need to let the property owner knows about it, and let the property owner know the implication that if this is not done, anytime all these people comes around, they are going to sanction us. So let it be in writing format. Let everybody be aware so that any day, anytime they come around and they sanction you, it won't sound as if, why didn't you tell us when you know? So notifying them, you have fulfilled the ethics of the profession.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. So
Yes,
thank
sir.
you, everybody, for today. We see each other when we do the facility tour, which is going to be physical. We see each other physically when we do facility tour. And today is the last class I'll be having with you, except on the practical day. Thank you very much. Since we've been enduring each other together since Wednesday, Friday, and today, we round it up. I so much appreciate everybody that has put 1 or 2 comments, asked 1 or 2 questions. Thank you, everybody.
So much, sir.
At this point, we shall be dropping the curtain. Thank you.
Thank you so much,
sir.
Thank you so much.
Just the rest of the week.
Wow.